guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Chi. Today we're going to be sitting down, or I'm going to be sitting down and sharing with you guys the books that I read in August. I know I had a long August TBR. I think I had 8 books on it. Listen, I got to read 4 out of the 8 physical books that I had, and I think I mentioned that in my last vlog. 2 books are moving over and I just don't really know what happened to the other 2. But I'm going to go through the physical books that I read in August. I'm going to give you guys my ratings, my reviews. If there's any trigger warnings that I remember or that are just in my notes, I'll definitely put it on the screen or I'll mention it. And I'll also take you guys through my audiobooks, because I know when I was asking you guys what books do you want to hear about in my wrap-ups, you guys said that you're also open to audiobooks. So what I'm going to do is just go physical books and then we'll go audiobooks. So if you care about a section, if you care about both, you get to see it. And then I'll also make sure to have the kind of like timeline, timestamps like I always do, at least lately, so you guys can move around as you want, so you're not stuck in an area if you don't want to be. But yeah, I'm excited, which is crazy to say because they're all thrillers and they're all about, I think someone died in each one. No. Oh, yeah, okay. So, the first physical book I read in the month of August was Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I rated this a 3.5 stars out of 5. It is a trigger warning in and of itself. I think the one thing is you immediately know as soon as you open the pages, because I think I read on the first page something and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a dark book. I will say, as someone who I jokingly say I'm a Colleen Hoover hater, I actually really like this book. Even with the trigger warnings and as dark as it was, it lacked the cringe that I usually feel with Colleen Hoover books that kind of turn me off in a way. Sloane, she's with a guy who is named Asa. He's a drug dealer, and the book really takes you through how she's in this situation with someone, and then you figure out why she's sticking around with Asa, what's going on, and then you also learn that Asa, I mean, you already know that he is not a good person immediately, but you know some of the trickery that he's doing on Sloane, but then you also kind of get a little bit of his point of view, like what made Asa the way he is, and how does that develop into how he treats others, how he treats Sloane. It's sick in a way. I mean, it is sick, but it also makes you feel pity for Asa in a way that you just don't really want to, because he's not a great person. It's just so hard because it really is one of those books where you can quite literally see what horrific childhood trauma can do to not only a person, but what that person will then do to other people if they don't know that they have the trauma, if they don't acknowledge it, when they do know, if they don't seek help for it. And then worse, when someone who has horrific trauma like that has a position of power and money to be able to kind of do what they want. There is also a guy, I forgot his name too, I think because I read this, Carter. Carter is, and you read this on the back too, so I'm not giving away too many spoilers, but he's a DEA agent. He basically comes in the picture because him and his partner and the whole agency, the branch, are trying to take down Asa. So it was kind of set up for him to be a part of the mix, be a part of Sloane's life. I really did enjoy this book. The next book I read was The Coworker by Freida McFadden. I gave this book a 2-star. And my only notes that I took down are, I don't like Natalie, page 168. I don't know. I have this book I liked it because of, how can I explain this without spoiling it? Okay, so Natalie, we don't like her. And I say that because anyone that reads this, you're gonna be like, why are you like that? Natalie is basically the typical mean girl office bully, and you don't really notice that in the beginning. You kind of maybe can tell that she's a little bit judgy when it comes to Dawn, but then you notice really quickly, or in the first half, that she's actually just mean. Like, she's a mean girl. And then you find out that she's also been mean growing up. Like, it's not just like a new office thing that happened, Dawn did something to her, she's just a mean girl. And then knowing that she's also mean when she was younger, it starts to kind of trickle in to the current story about what happened to Dawn, because Dawn goes missing, essentially. Murdered, kidnapped, you'll find out, and Natalie gets blamed for it. And you're trying to figure out with Natalie what happened, essentially. And there's not really a point in the book where you think that it is Natalie, or I didn't think that it was Natalie at all. but you are wondering where Dawn is, what happened. Well, I wanted to feel bad because who wants to be framed for murder? Once it starts being revealed that Natalie is really a mean girl, I stopped caring. I said, girl, you know what? If you want to bully and the people that you bully decide to like get back at you, I mean, it was a wild way to get back at someone if she is being framed. I didn't care. I was like, you're guilty, I don't care. The next book I read, I have heard so many good things about this book from you guys, from online, from like reels, TikToks, things like that. And it's called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I gave this book a 3.5, 4-star. I think honestly it'll land at a 3.5. Trigger warning for sexual assault in this book. It doesn't mention the act of it, but it mentions it in past tense, like it happened type of thing. So it doesn't go into detail, but I do want to trigger warning this because it's a different trigger warning than Too Late. This trigger warning is things are happening in action, you are reading it in real time type of thing. This was more of this happened. So trigger warning still though. This book did make me cry at the end. I can't tell you why. Well, maybe I can. Well, I mean, you do know what happens. Andy goes missing and everyone blames her boyfriend Sal, and he then kills himself, and it tells you this on the back, so I'm not spoiling anything. But I think the part that got me is at the end you figure out that, I don't know, I feel like from reading the back you already have an idea that something is amiss. Like it didn't go down the way that everyone is saying that it went down, because it just doesn't make sense. I love Pip, who the story is based around, who did basically her project on this whole town murder, and she wanted to get to the bottom of it because she just didn't believe that the story that they had for Sal killing Andy and then killing himself was right or true. I just feel like she gave Sal's family closure in a way that he deserved. Also, when you find out what actually happened to Andy, I will say, and I did write it in my notes, it sucks and it's awful, but I get it. And that's all I can say about it without ruining or giving away any spoilers. The last physical book I read this month is The Twin by Natasha Preston. I gave this book a 2. I thought this book, again, just like the last one, was going to be more of like a high school drama. And from the verbiage that the author uses to describe conversations that the main character, Ivy, is having, it does sound very high schoolish. And I will say, this book made me realize how much I actually do want a happy ending in a book, or at least a resolution that makes sense, because the ending in this book is not happy. I'm not going to tell you what happened. I didn't even guess what would have happened. Honestly, I think a part of me had a feeling that, you know, there'd be like justice, and no, there was not in this book. So it really caught me off guard, and I wrote in my notes, it was like, I didn't realize how much I actually prefer a happy ending until I read this book. But I will say, even though I gave it a 2, I gave it a 2 mostly because I, as a Libra, the scales, felt very pissed off. I just didn't like how unjust it was. Like, I didn't like how unjust the ending was. And what I hated is how quickly everyone basically turned their back on Ivy in this book. And I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, but it just blew my mind how quickly your friends, even your family, who've known you for years, see something like new and shiny, and they're like, oh, bye to you. It just blew my mind how quickly her twin sister was able to really just manipulate everyone, and how easily they fell for it, how easily they just tossed Ivy. And it's not really a spoiler because, I mean, it goes into it dang near the whole book, and then you get to the ending. That just pissed me off. But that part I didn't like. And what got me was, it's also still realistic. Like, I remember being in middle school, I remember being in high school. People are very fickle. I mean, people are fickle even as an adult, but at least as an adult, when people are fickle, you can remove yourself. This book made me realize you could not pay me to go back to middle school or high school. You could not pay me. Now I'm going to take you guys through the audiobooks that I read this month. For the month of August, I read 3 audiobooks, or I listened to 3 audiobooks. The first one I listened to was She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica, and I gave this book a 2.5 stars. This book is basically about an ICU nurse who gets a patient who jumped from a building, and she's trying to figure out why and what happened. And then there's also like a killer on the loose, and they're trying to see if they're tied together, you know, the whole being pushed or jumping off of a bridge, and then this murderer. And then you also realize that the nurse has more of involvement, not with the lady as she's unconscious or in a coma, but the lady in a previous life. I don't know how to describe it. So you're trying to figure out what exactly happened to the girl who pushed off or jumped off the building, was pushed off the building, who the killer is. It wasn't confusing of a read. Like, it wasn't that I couldn't follow along. It's just I didn't enjoy the follow along, I'll be honest with you. It just, I don't know. The ending was just random. I don't know. I just feel like the book was kind of going in too many directions. I feel like it should have not settled on one area, but it should have just really taken one kind of ending, or what could have been an ending, and just really put all their energy into that. And I feel like it would have been like a 3.5 star read, 3.5. It was okay. The next book I read was also from the same author, and I actually give this one a 3 star. It's called Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. Gave this one a 3 star, and I actually really enjoyed this book. Some of the things that I kind of guessed would happen did, but not in like a bad way where I was bored of it once I found out that it did actually happen. But there were some twists in the book that I was not expecting, and I mean, it was actually a really big twist. Not a twist, but like, yeah, actually kind of a twist. It threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting it. I honestly thought that I had the book figured out. So essentially, someone that you just don't expect had not a lot to do with the entire plot, but had a lot to do with like a big part of the plot. But again, kind of like, it's so hard because I'm like, I want to be mad at this person for doing the thing or the big thing or having involvement, but then you can also kind of see why they did it. And I'm like, am I rationalizing with the villain? Am I the villain? The last audiobook that I listened to this month was The Wife Upstairs by Freida McFadden. This is the book. This is the reason why I am taking a Freida McFadden break, because this book gave me anger issues. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was audibly sighing while listening to this book and saying, where like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay, so the plot, and I did find out online that apparently the plot is taken from another book, which I've never read that other book, so I don't know, but people online seem to really, because I had to Google the reviews for this book after I read it, because I was like, am I just being a hater, or did this book really piss me off? I cannot stand when a book has characters act so out of the norm of at least relative smartness. Like, I can see some stupid mistakes here and there. We're human, or you know, they're book humans. But some things are just, there's no way you have this character thinking and doing this. And that's how I felt reading this book. I can't even read y'all the notes that I have on this book because they're not nice. They're not nice notes. So I gave this book a 1. No, okay, actually I gave this book 0 stars, and I quite literally said at the bottom of my notes, 0 stars in all caps. So take that with a grain of salt though, because you might actually really enjoy it. So basically the gist of the book is Sylvia, she gets a job working for Adam to take care of and basically befriend his wife Victoria, who got into an accident. She like fell down the stairs, and now she can't walk on her own. She's like in a wheelchair. She can barely speak. She can only say a few words, and it just like really messed with her cognitively. So then you quickly find out that something is wrong or something's up, because Victoria gives Sylvia something to read, her diary, and you find this on the first few pages, so well, kind of, it's not really a spoiler, but then you kind of learn the history of Victoria and Adam, and it's not good. It's not good. And what really pissed me off is, I can't even, because it's a spoiler, but Sylvia is just not using her brain. Like, I need you to use your brain, girl. And she just doesn't, and she's not a girl's girl until like midway through the end, you know, but it just took too long, and she already pissed me off before the midway point where she's like, oh my god, I'm gonna be a girl's girl. It's progressively getting so dark. I will say Sylvia did get it together before the end, and then also messed up again but then fixed it. I don't know, guys. I did enjoy the book in the sense that, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. That was it. I didn't read a crap ton of books. Eight, I think we had, no, 7 books. It's still a lot, but it's definitely not like the height of my reading. But August just kind of got away from me, honestly, in a good way. I hope you guys enjoyed this little book video. I'll talk to you guys in my next one. Bye.